It was the sound that did it, this sharp, bright snicker like someone cracking a knuckle in church. I'd just walked into the HR meeting room when I heard it. High-pitched, careless. It didn't match the room. Didn't match the moment. That little laugh was the first thing I noticed before anything else. Not the sterile walls. Not the windowless office. Not even the cardboard box waiting on the corner of the desk. Just her laugh. I stood there a second longer than I should have. Rain still beating on my shoulders from the walk across the parking lot. She didn't offer a seat, just kept tapping on her laptop with long nails painted some impossible neon color. When she finally looked up, her gum snapped. "Hi," she said. "We'll try to make this quick. My name is Cal Becker, 51 years old. I was senior systems lead for Optivate Solutions, a mid-size IT infrastructure firm out of Raleigh. Nothing flashy, but stable. Built like a brick wall. I'd been there since '03, back when we were still coding in cold rooms and duct taping server racks together with prayer and caffeine. I'd worked my way up from help desk to department lead, one busted firewall and holiday emergency at a time. And now, here I was, Kelsey with an IE. She later emphasized, started reading from a script she hadn't practiced. Said something about strategic role reductions and business modernization. All soft words packed around a blade. Then she said it. "Your legacy junk." She didn't even flinch, just kept reading. I looked at the box on the desk. Standard issue. I'd seen it used for retiring execs and guys escorted out after HR investigations. Never thought it'd have my name on it. She slid it across the table with one hand, still chewing that gum like it owed her money. "We've transferred your documentation to Bryce," she said. "You remember him, right? The new guy from contract services?" I remembered Bryce. Out of college, green as wet paint, still struggling to set up his own voicemail. I'd trained him last month on basic back-end protocols. He'd smiled a lot, nodded even more. Now he had my job. Kelsey tapped the screen again, impatient. "We'll need you out in 30. I stared at her. Not angry. Not yet. Just absorbing. "I built the back-end security stack you're sitting behind," I said. My voice didn't raise. "You know that, right?" She gave a half smile. "Cool." It took everything not to laugh. I didn't argue. Didn't ask to speak to someone higher. That would have made it real. Instead, I stood, picked up the box, and walked out without a word. The hallway was quiet. A few people glanced over their monitors as I passed. No one said anything. My old office, was already logged out by the time I got back. Screens blank. They'd moved fast. The lights were a little dimmer than I remembered. Or maybe I was seeing different now. I packed my things methodically. Coffee mug from the first Christmas party. Framed photo of the team back when we actually liked each other. A small, half-dead plant my daughter gave me to liven the place up. Last to go was the brass nameplate that just said Cal. They'd ordered it wrong 20 years ago, left off my last name. I never bothered fixing it. By the time I stepped into the elevator, my badge beeped red. That should have been it. End of story. Walk into the storm and never look back. But something strange happened when I got home. I opened my laptop habit and found a single new email waiting in my inbox. It was from the internal network. I clicked it without thinking. No two-factor prompt. No security lockout. They forgot to kill my admin access. That was their first mistake. I leaned back in my chair, watching the network tree blink to life like an old ghost waking up. All the servers, all the credentials, all the drives. Everything was still there. And I knew exactly where the bodies were buried. Bryce made his first mistake 20 minutes after I walked out the door. By noon the next day, he'd made 17 more. It was all there in the alerts. I still had access to critical flags I'd set years ago to monitor system performance and client-side latency. Someone had pushed a migration script without verifying node redundancy. I'd built those scripts myself, designed them to require manual authorization at 2 levels. Bryce bypassed both with a brute override he didn't understand, and suddenly 3 of our oldest clients, big ones, were showing service interruptions in 4 different time zones. I wasn't surprised. The man couldn't even find the backup portal without using the internal wiki I'd written. Watching him fumble with my systems was like watching a toddler try to disarm a bomb. He had no idea what he was touching, just wide-eyed panic dressed up in a company-issued polo. What did surprise me was how fast it spiraled. 24 hours in, the warning signs became alarms: downtime on the East Coast, corrupted data packets in Frankfurt, and a full outage in Singapore that cost a seven-figure client 3 hours of revenue. That's when the emails started flying. Some of the old execs' names I hadn't seen in months were now hitting reply all, like their lives depended on it. One of them must have still had my name cached, because I got copied in by mistake. That's when I knew I still mattered. Kelsey, for her part, tried to plug the leaks. She pinged the VP of Operations, Richard Talbot, a man who once came to me 3 days before a board review, panicked because the client retention metrics were a disaster. I cleaned it up, presented it for him too. Afterward, he bought me lunch and called me a quiet asset. Talbot was still around, still addicted to PowerPoint templates and golf metaphors. I saw him respond to Kelsey's email thread with the same buzzwords I'd read in his playbook 100 times. Synergy, turnkey, onboarding friction. None of it meant anything, and none of it solved the problem. I already had his login credentials, had them for years. Not because I was snooping, but because he made me automate his report pulls and never bothered to change his passwords. I typed them in like muscle memory, watched the admin dashboard light up in front of me. That's when I knew what I was going to do next. Not revenge. Not yet. This was recon. I didn't want headlines. Not yet. I wanted to know how deep it went. I wanted to see who signed off on it, who funded it, and who smiled while they dismantled everything I'd built. So I logged into something even deeper, an old archive node I kept alive off-grid, independent from the company network. I'd used it over the years to test builds, sandbox bugs, and store project backups no one else had the foresight to preserve. It had a back door. My door. Encrypted. Isolated. Clean. They didn't even know it existed. I started indexing, pulling logs, flagging internal memos, HR documents, budget proposals. I tracked down access logs tied to Kelsey's ID and began building a timeline, and that's when I found it. A folder buried in a permissions group labeled Internal Strategic Restructure, FY 24. Inside was a slideshow, 91 pages. Most of it read like corporate nonsense: phase alignment, generational agility, attrition, forecasting. But halfway through, the title changed: Project Sweep. Beneath it, a subheading in bold: Target List, Phase 1. I clicked. Headshots, employee numbers, roles, tenure, salary cost. My photo was first. And I wasn't alone. It wasn't just me. That was the first thing that hit me when I opened the Project Sweep deck. The slideshow looked like a senior thesis in sociopathy. Clean font, branded template, Executive Leadership Summit 2025 stamped across the top. Page 3 spelled it out like a war plan. Reduce payroll cost by 34%. Then in bold, target, over 50 employees with high tenure and pension risk. I read it again to be sure I wasn't misinterpreting. But it was all there. Charts, spreadsheets, photos, 19 names, 19 faces. All of us with 20 years or more under our belts. Most of us had trained the very people trying to erase us. I'd known some of them since flip phones. We'd built the company brick by digital brick while people like Kelsey were still learning cursive. My photo was first. That was a nice touch. Each profile was tagged with things like high-cost liability and low adaptability score. Adaptability. That's what they called. Refusing to do 6 people's work for half the pay. One column labeled Risk Index had my pension projections listed like I was a defective part eating up budget. We weren't colleagues anymore. We were overhead. Bloat. Junk to be swept. I closed the deck and stared at the screen for a long time. The hum of the server fan was the only sound in my office. Well, my home office now. My hands weren't shaking from rage. They were steady, Controlled. This wasn't panic. This was clarity. They didn't just fire me. They systemically planned my removal, strategized it, presented it to executives in a summit probably catered with shrimp and espresso carts, and Kelsey, bubblegum, Kelsey, was the one who led it. I leaned back in my chair, opened a different folder, one I hadn't touched in years. I called it failsafes. It wasn't company property. It wasn't even on company hardware. Just backups, screenshots, notes from over the years, emails I'd flagged but never reported, memos with buried line items, quiet things that looked like nothing to the untrained eye, vendor kickbacks, funny invoices, the time we massaged diversity stats before Q3. I'd never used any of it. Never planned to. I was a fixer, not a saboteur. But Kelsey had changed the game. She didn't just fire us. She commodified us, packaged us into a spreadsheet, and traded us for short-term bonuses and clout. She sold our legacies for LinkedIn likes. I read through the names on the list again. I knew 18 of them personally. Engineers, architects, designers, department heads. Some were gruff, some were kind, but every single one had held the place together through outages, budget cuts, mergers, acquisitions. We were the foundation, and she was ripping us out with a crowbar. I didn't rage. I compiled. I indexed. 20 years of digital dust being reassembled into a sharp, clean file. The server I was working from wasn't even on the company grid. I kept it in a Faraday-shielded enclosure in my garage. Paranoid? Maybe. But the older you get in tech, the more you realize that control isn't about firewalls. It's about what people don't know exists. And Kelsey didn't know this existed. By midnight, I had a dossier. Not just on Project Sweep. On her. Her digital trail was surprisingly lazy. Meeting logs, calendar invites, Slack conversations pulled from cached backups. Her name was everywhere, not just as a contributor, as architect. She'd pitched the program, optimize aging out processes. That was the phrase she used. She'd pitched it, and they'd bought it. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I couldn't, but because I had something better to do. Around 2 a.m., an internal comms notice popped into the server logs. Upcoming company-wide livestream. CEO to host a digital town hall on vision alignment. Scheduled for Friday. 2 days out. Public. Recorded. Streamed across every branch, every satellite office. And I still had the admin key to the streaming platform. No password reset. No revoked token. Just one very open door. That was the moment it all came into focus. I didn't want her fired. I wanted her exposed. Because some things aren't just mistakes. They're patterns. And patterns beg to be broken. The stream opened with a countdown, clean graphics, upbeat music, branding that probably cost more than my severance. Optivate Solutions presents the future of the company. I watched it unfold from the server room of a small data center I had access to through a third-party contractor. Quiet place, cold, isolated, fitting. They were broadcasting from a rented studio in Charlotte. Multi-camera setup, teleprompters, ring lights, real corporate theater. Employees had been instructed to attend virtually, mandatory morale injection. The CEO was scheduled to unveil the next decade vision. Words like agility, efficiency, transformation were teased in the pre-roll. Kelsey was there too, sitting just to the left of center frame. Hair perfectly curled, blazer sharp, expression smug beneath a mask of charm. She was all smiles. She didn't know. Her company-issued laptop was plugged into the control console on stage. It was synced to the internal network for presentation control, standard practice for her role. What wasn't standard was the legacy plugin she'd never noticed. The one buried in the code base. She'd inherited it from a Slack script I built years ago to hot swap media files during downtime trainings. Never deleted it. Never even noticed it. 10 minutes into the live stream, after the CEO droned through a rehearsed monologue about cultural evolution, I ran the trigger. Just a pulse. The screen behind them flickered just once. A blink. Then the PowerPoint started. But not their PowerPoint. Project. Sweep. Termination targets. At first, the CEO didn't seem to notice. Kelsey did. Her head snapped toward the display like she'd heard a gunshot. The first slide was my favorite. Simple, black background, white font. Phase 1 reduction candidates. Then came the faces. The names. The roles. The risk index column with pension liabilities. 19 profiles. Mine leading the parade. The room went quiet on screen. The fake smiles collapsed. The CEO turned slowly toward the screen. What the hell is this? Kelsey didn't answer. Her mouth opened. Closed. A flicker of panic danced in her eyes. The chat panel exploded. Thousands of employees watching, some typing disbelief, others cheering. Then came the next slide, internal communications, regarding reduction strategy, screenshots of Slack threads, email headers, her initials in every thread, then the invoices, vendor kickbacks, shell companies paid for services that didn't exist. A breakdown of cooked Q3 diversity numbers, and finally, the slide that broke it all. A compensation document showing the performance bonus tied directly to reduction milestones with Kelsey's name in bold, and a 5-figure number circled in red. The CEO stood, off mic, but not off camera. Who authorized this? He asked. Kelsey turned pale. It wasn't. This isn't what it looks like, she fumbled, hands out as if she could physically block the images from view. But they kept rolling. I let the system finish the full rotation. 7 minutes, 32 seconds. Then, a message appeared, dead center of the screen. Legacy doesn't mean obsolete. It means built to last. I closed the stream on my end. Didn't need to watch the fallout. Instead, I slipped out the back door of the data center and drove straight to Optivate's Raleigh headquarters. I'd kept a spare badge all these years. No one ever revoked it. I parked in the far lot, walked in like I still belonged there. No one stopped me. Kelsey's office was on the second floor. Past the glass conference rooms, now flooded with chatter, I heard voices. Panic. She wasn't at her desk. The door was unlocked. I stepped inside. Her desk was clean, too clean, like she'd cleared it recently. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a small envelope. Inside, a printed screenshot of the bonus agreement, circled in red, with one line written in pen, and beneath it, "You shouldn't have underestimated the people who built the place you burned." I left it dead center on her keyboard. Then I walked out the way I came in. No one saw me, but they'd know I was there. Monday morning, the subject line read, "Staffing update, organizational realignment." It hit inboxes across every regional office, distribution list, and internal Slack channel. The email was 3 sentences long. Kelsey Warren is no longer with the organization, effective immediately. We thank her for her contributions and wish her the best in her future endeavors. No explanation. No follow-up. Just silence from the top. But I wasn't done. That email was a formality, a corporate press release in miniature. What mattered was what happened in the real world. And in the real world, the live stream footage had gone viral. I made sure of it. I uploaded it to 3 burner accounts, each seeded with followers and keywords that hit every tech industry subreddit, IT forum, and disgruntled employee Slack I could find. Within 12 hours, it was trending on Reddit under r, divided by tech justice. 48 hours later, someone clipped the CEO's confused, "What the hell is this?" into a meme that made it to LinkedIn. Dozens of employees commented anonymously, then clients, then investors. But the true avalanche started from a name on that list, number 14, Rob Diaz, senior database architect, 27 years with the company. He wasn't just an engineer. He was also a lawyer, dual degree, practiced employment law before joining Optivate. He reached out to the rest of us the same day the footage dropped. We had a call. Just 19 of us. Familiar voices. Old friends. Some I hadn't heard from in years. One had a grandson now. Another had just recovered from surgery. Every single one of us had been marked for disposal. Rob had already drafted the paperwork. Class action suit, wrongful termination, age discrimination, pension targeting. He knew every statute, every loophole. And now, we had more than claims. We had proof, visual, verbal, documented. The PowerPoint deck, the bonus agreement, the chat logs. It was bulletproof. We filed within the week. By Friday, the CEO announced his resignation to pursue new opportunities. That's the line they always use when they're running. Word leaked that the board forced him out. Investors had called emergency meetings. The stock dipped. Not a crash. Not yet, but enough to make noise. Then came the SEC. A formal probe opened into Optivate's reporting practices after an anonymous source submitted whistleblower documents regarding inflated diversity metrics and shell vendor transactions. I sent those files from a park bench under a private network with a clean VPN, using a laptop that never touched my home Wi-Fi. Bryce was still around for a bit. That didn't last. He got caught trying to delete back-end log entries, probably at Kelsey's direction. Security walked him out with his company backpack half-zipped and 2 plants still on his desk. No goodbye. I never spoke to Kelsey again. But I saw her. A friend forwarded me a screenshot of her from a recruitment firm's website. She was listed as office coordinator. Hair undone. Smile forced. The fake confidence was gone. Just tired eyes and a generic bio that didn't mention Optivate at all. She'd vanished from LinkedIn entirely. There was a time I would have felt something pity maybe, some whisper of empathy. But that was before she stacked our lives into a deck and traded us for a promotion. You can't build a career on the bones of better people. Not without them rising up from the dirt. The settlement hit 7 figures. Split 19 ways. It was a clean payout, enough to erase debt. Pad retirement. Take a breath. The terms came with NDAs, of course, but everyone knows how whispers move through an industry. Her name became radioactive. Recruiters stopped calling. Her glow dimmed. As for me, I bought a house just outside Asheville. Quiet place. No HOA. I built a small server room in the basement, nothing fancy. Just something for me. I consult now. Small gigs. Startups who want to build the right way. Legacy. They call me. This time, like it means something good. I kept one thing from that old office, my brass nameplate. Cal. Just Cal. It sits on my new desk. A reminder. The gavel dropped the moment she called me junk. It just took a few days to echo.